Kirk is now 36, coming off an Achilles, and yet he was able to get a 4-year deal worth $180 million with the Falcons. So lead us through that process and how that negotiation went down with Atlanta.
Yeah, the Atlanta negotiation didn't take long, to be honest, because we really couldn't do anything until the start of free agency. And, understanding that teams don't want to hold out, 40, 45, whatever million dollars, and then lose a player and then lose out on other players. Free agencies just go so fast now. When I got in the league, it was much slower. It sped up probably that year when Kirk went to Minnesota, and now it's a blur. They're most of the big name guys are gone in the first few hours. So I felt a real pressure all along to do right by Minnesota. Had a lot of conversation with Minnesota, and I think they would share that it was positive communication. It was consistent. We just disagreed on what really the second year would look like, and they were good. They were fair. They never said or did anything that was insulting, but the player gets one chance, right, at making sure these next few years are right. So I spent a lot of time in November and December, January, just researching rosters, trying to understand coaching searches, offensive coordinator hires, all those kind of things. And I don't have them in front of me, but I have an ongoing quarterback research Excel spreadsheet that's pretty extensive. And I look at it every single day. It's got all the pro teams and who's in need, who has a situation that I call I have three categories: settled, in need, and unsure. And I think when the season ended, I had 8 teams that I thought had a strong need to upgrade a quarterback, and probably ultimately ended up being 7 or 8. But I look at that every day, and then I have all the free agent quarterbacks or the possibilities of trade. And then I have the whole college draft, because that has a huge impact, right? Like if you're going to pick 1, 2, or 3 in a draft like this, you're probably not going to spend a lot of money in free agency, or if you do, it's a short-term deal. So it all works together, and it just, literally every day looking at this spreadsheet and thinking about it, and then, calling pro guys and general managers around the league. When I say pro guys, pro scouts, and, the teams that don't need a quarterback in particular. Hey, what do you think about this team and their need? What do you think about this quarterback? What would be your worry about Kirk or your concerns? It just having as many just football conversations. It wasn't tampering by any stretch. It's just having football conversations. Nothing different than what we're doing, right? But I would do it with decision makers, and so by the time we get to out of the combine, and then really the combine is just kind of like getting together with friends. There's no negotiation that goes on at the combine. At least I've never negotiated at the combine. It's too far removed from free agency anyway, and I just don't think teams are ready. Maybe they listen to the agents with the big name players, but there's nothing real substantial going on there other than, hey, this team might be on our dance card. That is at most, anything that would happen. And there's nothing crossing a line with that. So I come out of the combine, I have one more week, to figure it all out. And by then I had pinpointed a few teams. And honestly, I kind of, the teams that are at the top of the draft, I have a lot of confidence that they're not going to come after us, right, with the right deal. And then I have a few teams that are maybe drafting a little lower, and those are the teams that I really sort of pinpointed. And so then, with Minnesota, again, a lot of conversation. We got to a place where we agreed that it would make sense for Kirk and I to go to free agency. So at 11 o'clock Central Time, I live in Chicago, as I said, it starts, and 11:01 the Falcons call, And I immediately said, hey, if you're serious about this, we need to do this quickly. We need to do it quickly for Minnesota because I don't want to hold them up if we leave. And we need to do it quickly for you so that if you do get Kirk, then you can get other receivers, other offensive players. So listen, this is what we're looking for. Are you in the ballpark or not? And they were really in that ballpark pretty quick. I mean, real quick. So that's why it was able to go so quick. I'll take you back when we had the lockout in 2011. We lost the entire offseason. And they basically, when they agreed to a new CBA, we had 1 week to cram the entire offseason in. And it was the most fun week I had as an agent. It was exhausting. I didn't sleep, but there was no hardly negotiation. It was like, hey, this is what we can do. Are you in or out? And I had probably 10 free agents that week, and it was great. That's what it feels like now in free agency. There's no real time, especially when you're at the very top with that kind of money sitting in the open market to play games. You just have to get to it. So fortunately, Kirk and I had a lot of conversations about each of those situations, each of those teams. And Minnesota was always super attractive to come back to because that would have been year 3 in Kevin O'Connell's offense. Of course, they got great weapons on offense. That they're a good football team. Atlanta was attractive because they were on the come. If you go back to 2018, Minnesota was coming off an NFC championship game. And so when Kirk signed there was a lot of pressure for him to play at a high level. And when we signed, their running game was good, their defense was good, and both of those sort of deteriorated pretty quickly. Whereas Atlanta is more on the come and just doing a lot of homework. They've got young weapons, but they also have a lot of younger, quieter guys that were in my research, they were starving for a leader. They were starving for, a guy to take command of that football team. And so I didn't even get into this with Atlanta that much. It was more Kirk and I on the front end before it actually started, really talking through, and we had done this once before, obviously in 2018. So I knew that he had a lot of confidence that I was going to be ready and thoroughly research these teams. And, some of this is obvious, right? But some of it is there's nuance to it and just kind of presenting it the right way. So that's why I was able to go so quickly because we had done a lot of homework, as I've said, and Atlanta knew, hey, if we're going to get Kirk, we got to come after him right away, and we got to come hard. And I just made a big deal, guys. We got to do this really quick. I do not want to be unfair to Minnesota. And if we get a similar deal, we're probably going back to Minnesota. So if you want him, he's got to move a wife and kids. So you got to make it worth his while to move. And I give Atlanta credit, and I give Minnesota credit. They were terrific. I dealt with 3 guys: the head coach, the general manager, Kwesi, and then the cap guy, Rob Brzezinski. And I have unbelievable respect for them, how they handled it. It was not easy. It's just, this is business. It's hard. And they were first class every step of the way.